The challenges that entrepreneurs face today are immense. There are so many, ubiquitous. There's a plethora of things out there. So today my guest, Refiloe Manyaka from Twice Blue, unpacks how to overcome some of these challenges. So let's hear what she had to say. Refiloe, welcome to Exceptional TV. Welcome back. Actually, that's what I should say.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here for the
you're the first. You're the first person to come back for the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The privilege and of working together gives you that. Then we must get Spiwe to come back as well at some point.
Yeah.
But today we want to explore things a bit differently.
Okay.
Last time we spoke about the whole idea of millennials, how they work in the workplace. Today I want to talk about entrepreneurship. So you're the CEO of Twice Blue. We work together. I want us to just discuss some of the challenges of actually setting up a new business from scratch.
Yeah.
And how, because you've been driving that in our business. So maybe you could start off by sharing, maybe let's talk about what does Twice Blue do? Some free advertising. I won't charge you for it.
Hey.
But what does Twice Blue do? And when we set up the business in your mind, what were some of the key foundations that you needed to ensure the business had?
Okay, so Twice Blue is a human capital development agency, and since this is a free ad, I'm not going to look at you. But pretty much we help organizations understand, navigate, and develop people in a changing world of work. And how we do that is we'd get in quite early when managers realize that there's a performance deficiency, or people are just not happy at work, or rather the morale is low. So we'd go in and find out why, get to the root cause of that problem, and then we'd design bespoke solutions based on their needs. So that could take a form of an intervention, a workshop, a keynote, a conference, you name it, we're not limited. So in a nutshell, that's what we do.
So when you began to really put the blocks of this business together, what were some of the challenges you faced?
Sure, there was a lot. I think there's the standard problems.
Firstly, we had problems, right?
Yes,
we needed to get this alignment.
Yes. Okay. Well, actually, so putting together a team and getting partners who are actually, aligned and not getting the same people per se in the business, but people who have complementary strengths.
Right.
But the problem with getting people with complementary strengths or different skill sets or different personalities is that you need to align.
Yeah.
So we went through the storming, the norming.
Yes, the whole
we
thing.
fought, but I think the underlying thing was that our purposes were aligned in the business, and it made it quite easy for us to come together, and we knew that we had good intentions in terms of what we wanted to build, and we're very serious about it. So that was very easy for us to eliminate the personality out of the question, eliminate the fact that maybe we miscommunicate sometimes, or the fact that I don't like your energy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that. That your vibe.
Yeah, it's there. So that was the alignment, the purpose, getting it together. But structurally, as a business, we're living in an era where there's a lot of issues around corporate governance and corruption. If you just look at a government point of view, what South Africa has had to endure over the past, call it 10 months of extreme change. We've had a change in presidency during his term. We've had a new finance minister who's recently been removed. So there's a new finance minister, and these are really the real solid foundations of any business around corporate governance. How have you ensured that from that point of view, Twice Blue is set up and it's solid enough to withstand potential corruption coming into the business?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, it's, we choose who we associate with.
Okay.
and again, we choose who we work with. And integrity is quite an important thing. I think the challenge would then be, how do you measure integrity? You know, you just met someone, it's subjective, you know. But I think that's where some soft skills would come into play. Things like intuition. And I think being a woman in business, I do have my intuition, and obviously you do make sure from a legal perspective that, you know, you tick all the boxes. You're right with SARS. You know, you do your due diligence in terms of upkeeping the business. But in terms of the people in the business, I think that's where, you know, you might not necessarily have control at all times, but we've got to trust each other, and we've got to inspire each other to do better and do what's right.
I think one of the biggest challenges, so recently we've been following the story of VBS Bank. What a sad story of really bad business practice, looting, corruption at the highest point. My challenge with some of those issues, and it's possible to even have it in this organization or even in any big organization, is that how much of a handle must the CEO have in terms of getting to the nitty-gritty of everything? I mean, you can't really know everything.
Yes.
So how do you manage the unknown that could be corrupt practice?
Ooh, that's a very difficult one, Alex. But I think things do start at some point.
Yeah.
You know, and when things start, you need to be able to pick up on them. You know, and you need to be able to discern when things are starting, because that's a critical time where, you know, I believe the issue of VBS is a lot of things that have started, that have built up, that have grown out of proportion, where they could have been kept in check in the early stages. Yeah. And yes, it becomes more and more impossible to keep an eye on everything. But you just need to be sharp, and you also just need to trust that the people on the ground and the people on the team, again, have good intentions, and they are there, you know, looking out for the business as much as you are. And I think that also speaks to vision, and it also speaks to, you know, how you communicate what this business is about, and is everybody aligned to that vision or that purpose of the business. And I think once that's in check, it becomes easier to trust the intentions of individuals within the business that are operating maybe on behalf of or represent you in front of a client. You've just got to trust.
True. So we've spoken purpose, we've spoken structure. Let's talk about business development and growth, because I think in any business, last week we had a young lady on our show talking to us about her beauty business.
Okay.
And we spoke about some of the challenges that she faces in terms of growing that business. And I said, what's your focus? And she said, look, we're a community-based business, so our focus is Soweto. This is what we want to do. Now, Twice Blue is positioned not just as a local business. What you guys can do, what we can do is more global.
Sure.
Even how do you go about building a new business? Because the stats are showing that 50% of new businesses fail within a year, and I'm sure you can already relate to see that. You can see why. A lot of it is to do with, good foundation, but ultimately it's about business development, it's about growth.
Yes.
How do you tackle this idea of business growth?
Sure, and I'll speak about my experience in this business. I think one has to first think global. If you're going to solve issues and problems on a global scale, you need to think about the world as a globe and different people, diverse people that will use your products and services on a global scale. That's the first thing. Secondly, you need to design bigger than the local context.
Right.
So what is it about my current business that works on a local context, but that will also work on a global scale?
Right.
And then I think thirdly is also to realize what your mediums will be to grow this business bigger than what it is right now. So is an app going to get me global? You know, or do I need to open several branches? Do I need to have a demographical footprint?
Right.
So that's another thing to think about. And then also think about the products and services. Are they simple enough to engage? Are they simple enough to execute?
Right.
I think that's another thing that that might get in the way of scaling or growing your business, is that you have a really awesome product and service, but it takes you so much time to do it, and therefore you cannot get the quantity and the numbers that you require to grow. And I think the third thing, or well, not the third thing. Where am I?
It's the fourth thing now.
The fifth thing. The fifth thing is
really tied to five. Fifth thing, yeah.
The fifth thing is really solving human issues, solving real human issues, and I think timing is key. So I think we live in a very technological world, you know, and people are thinking digital. Let's go digital. Everything is digital. That's great, but we don't need another app. We don't need another, you know, put whatever was on PDF and just put it online and it's digital.
And then it's digital.
That's not the case. But if you can solve a real human issue, then I think you're closer to scaling your business. And note that I said human issue, not necessarily a South African person who's living in the township issue. And I think what makes companies in Silicon Valley quite successful, I mean, and I'm just obsessed with all of them. If you look at them, the solutions are quite simple. It's nothing complicated. So probably simplification is key when you're trying to grow and scale.
So two last things. One, you've just spoken about it now, and I think there is an emergence of social entrepreneurs, the social enterprises where it's about the people that you're serving in a business. If you have started your own business, like Twice Blue is human capital development, at this stage our business is run around solving problems with human development and human deficiencies. How would you then attach a social entrepreneurial part to that business so that it does take care of the human element?
I think it's always, when you build your products and your services, you always build with the person in mind. And I think by virtue of that, it cannot help but become social. So when you, and I think it's very difficult as an entrepreneur because you've got this idea of how it's going to work. And I think you can relate. When we first, conceptualized this business, it was, bells and whistles. It really reflected who we were. But as soon as we got into the market and we started listening to what people want and changing and tweaking, everything changed. And perhaps it's a reflection of how hard it is as an entrepreneur when you know how something is supposed to work, and then versus what the market actually needs. It's a very, very, very different ball game, and you've got to be that agile and in tune with what it is that your consumers need from a social perspective as well. But once you tune in and you listen, I think it makes it easier. Makes it easier. You don't have to build a separate social entrepreneurship plan to it because people will own it. It will be theirs, and therefore it will
thrive. Last question. So, change. Now, I've seen a lot of organizations and even governments having Vision 2020, then there's Vision 2030. Some countries have even Vision 2050, which I think is all good and well because you must have something that you're working towards. But the world is changing at such a rapid and alarming rate. How flexible, how important is flexibility then in that space? Because, the prize keeps moving. The goalposts keep moving. Technology keeps changing the way we do business on a daily basis, keeps making it easier for us. People want things faster, quicker. They want it now. There's this instant desire. So what role does the agile part of business play in firstly trying to define what Vision 2030 is, but realizing that, maybe by 2022, this 2030 needs to be here now. How do you see that playing out, the agility in business?
I think first it's to it's to note that, I think the greatest challenge for the entrepreneur of the future will be to lead uncertainty and ambiguity.
The VUCA thing.
The VUCA thing. It really is a huge challenge, because how do you set a vision for 2020? And I think 10 years ago when we spoke about 2020, it was
far
this thing.
away.
But now, if you think about it, 2020 is like, what,
doorstep.
13 months away?
Yeah, it's around the corner.
It's around the corner. And you sort of don't feel the big hype that was set for 2020, just similar to the millennium. I mean, my grandmother believed millennium, there's not going to be lights, there's not going to be...
At that turn of the century, computers are going to stop working because they can't roll over into the next year.
Exactly.
I remember that.
So,
Y2K bugs and all that. Oh, it's crazy.
There you go. I was quite young, but I remember a bit of, that panic.
Oh, yeah, no. I wasn't at that time. I was just... Anyway.
But I think that's the biggest challenge, to lead uncertainty and ambiguity. And to answer your question a bit there, we need to understand the role that frameworks and sense-making tools play in making sense of the future and understanding what's going on now. But essentially, we need to come to terms with the perpetual state of becoming that we're currently in. That as much as you think change is not really happening, if you look at, and Kevin Kelly touches on this in his book, The Inevitable, where he says, and I'm trying to paraphrase it, where he says that it's this update, cell phone update today, it's the next cell phone update tomorrow. You don't realize it, but the capability of a cell phone has moved so far beyond in those updates. But when you're doing the update, you don't necessarily feel like a big change has happened.
Because you're clicking and going, and it doesn't.
You're clicking and going, and you're in a constant state of becoming. But to really get a grip or a vision of the future and plan for the future, I think one just really needs to come to terms with that we're in a constant state of becoming. But what are the key trends that will come up in the future? And the only way to find that out is if you engage in multidisciplines. So as an entrepreneur, you cannot only operate and think within the means of your industry. It becomes simply impossible to become agile. You almost need to borrow principles from different industries or different areas of learning. So you really need to be diverse and have your eyes out there.
Okay, thank you. The dress code of CEOs now in the new era, I mean, is there a particular way of doing business in a dress code? Sure. Is this like the
and
real
that has
super what?
Oh, this is super dry.
It's not a real question. I don't want you to answer it.
Let's just say I want to answer it.
Okay.
Though.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. But I think this has been a tough one. I've rocked up in a meeting in my caper tracksuit and whatnot. I guess one needs to dress for where they're going and what they intend to do. And I think I'm comfortable in this way. I think I bring lots of value to the workspace.
Outside of the way you dress.
And I'm the CEO. So
Refiloe, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thank you.
It's really lovely having a conversation on entrepreneurship. Well, guys, this is it. Refiloe Manyaka, CEO of Twice Blue, and international speaker and all things fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Do the things that need to be done. Catch you on the next episode. For now, I'm out.